last day of August. It's a Wednesday. And Peter, I can't believe how far we are into the season already the final stretch here. And we're going to talk a lot about basically what the schedule looks like down the rest of the way for some of the biggest contenders in baseball. And then a lot of topics and news to hit on. How are we feeling today, Pete?
Feeling good. It's crazy. It feels like the season has gone so fast, but at the same time, we're working so much every day. So it feels like the season is so long. But when you say that it's August 31st and we have a month left, we did the American League yesterday. We're doing National League today. We're also going to check up on who's the scariest team in the wild card. Like, who do we have to watch out for? It's all just a big mess right now in terms of how fast the season has felt, but also it's gone slow. It's weird.
It is one of those things where it's every day. That's what makes that's why I envy baseball players so much, because they're doing what we all dream of doing. But I can't imagine what it's like walking in every single day to see 95, 96 every day. You got to be so locked in. That's why guys in the 80s took all the greenies and, like that. How do you stay locked in every single day for 162 games? It's absolutely absurd.
You get ringworm.
Yeah. Or you get ringworm and then you can self-medicate. That's the obvious solution. But I want to talk real quick about Corbin Carroll. We were just wanted to mention, like, he looked great in his first ball game. Yes, he missed a ball in the outfield. Don't care. I always talk to outfielders about this, and I think it's really interesting. Guys in center actually get uncomfortable in the corner sometimes because the ball comes off so differently. Seemed to be the case. But Carroll, he beats out an infield ground ball. I wanted to give him the hit, but it's fine. They didn't give him the hit. It was an example, though, of how he can beat you in so many different ways, though. Plus speed. He burns down the line, gets on base, forces the error, and then later clears the bases with an opposite field line shot the other way. He can hit it far, and he can run fast, and he can kind of just do everything. And I think everybody at Just Baseball is falling in love with Corbin Carroll.
Falling in love with Corbin Carroll. First, I'm fiending for the top 100. I ask you every single day that we're on the mic because I need it so bad. I want to see where Corbin
Big
Carroll's
progress
ranked.
Today.
I want to see where Gunnar Henderson is ranked, but we will see that very soon over there on justbaseball.com. But I was thinking about it too. Corbin Carroll is going to be in baseball for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. Wouldn't we rather look back on his first hit being a double in the gap rather than that infield single to Gene Segura? I was almost like, you know what, good, because I knew he was going to get it in that game. Of course he's going to get it because he's incredible. I wanted that. I didn't want his first game. Highlights are, we got his first hit, which was maybe an error, and then he missed a ball in the outfield. No, let it go into the outfield, a piss missile, rocket. That's going to be remembered. And it took the lead over probably one of the worst beats. Like, we're going to talk about a little bit of gambling in a minute here when we get into some of the Verlander and all that kind of stuff. But Phillies were up 7-0. If you took the Phillies in the first five, Diamondbacks scored like 9 unanswered. To take the lead. I mean, probably the worst beat if anyone I think it was the Phillies.
Biggest comeback in D-backs history, which is really funny. Yeah, the Phillies kind of did what we were afraid of them doing this year, which they haven't done a lot of, which was implode. They haven't imploded that much with the bullpen, but man, did they. D-backs offense, no slouch, especially adding Corbin Carroll in there. But yeah, that would have been the worst beat of all because I would have already been counting my money there. And as you know, you can't do that until the final out is made. We're going to talk about whether you should count your money on a really interesting bet that one of your friends sent to you, which is really interesting. And it kind of ties in with this because Justin Verlander hits the IL. And I was really concerned. I wasn't watching the game where he exited. I went to put it on in the fourth, and I'm like, where the heck is Verlander? I wasn't on Twitter at the time. And first I'm thinking, please don't be an arm issue or whatever. It is technically good news that it's a calf issue. But at the same time, we saw how much the calf issue lingered with Mike Trout last year. I mean, Verlander's no spring chicken. He's 39. I think it's probably more precautionary. You and I aren't doctors, but anytime your ace hits the IL, it's a bit concerning. What do you make of this? I mean, the Astros are fine. They have Hunter Brown waiting in the wings, who's a guy that I think they might promote and could kind of fill in as a starter. But we'll talk about the Cy Young implications in a minute. But I mean, the Astros, I feel like they're still just not really going to miss a beat even without Verlander in the regular season.
Especially now with Lance McCullers Jr. back, and you still got Framber Valdez, you still got Luis Garcia, you still got Christian Javier, who they've been sort of using again as a swingman. I've seen Christian Javier more move back into the bullpen when he's been one of their best starters this year. But no, I don't think the Astros are going to miss a beat. They also don't really need to. They have this division on lock at this point, and it's honestly probably a good thing. Take a couple of weeks off for Verlander, but it's not a good thing if the calf is going to bother him come October. But at least the word out of Houston is that he's only going to miss a couple of starts and he's going to be totally fine. We'll probably be back by the end of the season anyway. That's why the Cy Young implications are so interesting.
Yeah, and this was somebody that to me, I'm like, this is my Cy Young winner. But also I'm biased because I think what he's doing is so cool, and it's just Verlander is nostalgic. I think for us, just remembering he threw 100 when it was really cool. In seventh, eighth inning, ripping 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. Like I just remember watching him, and the fact that he's still able to do what he's doing, I think is really awesome. One of your friends sent you a ticket. You put it up on Twitter of a parlay that is pretty insane. It's $1 to win $918. And I want the listener to kind of follow along with us and think what you would do here. So the parlay is, I'll go with the ones that are pretty much almost guaranteed at this point. It's the 3 of the 4 legs, which is Paul Goldschmidt, National League MVP. You could pretty much consider that one, I think, pretty much done at this point. Aaron Judge, AL MVP. I know people are floating Ohtani, but it's not really a discussion for me. At
50 home runs.
Yeah. And for a team that, has been the best at points in baseball, has really struggled without Judge, as Michael K mentioned on Twitter, they're probably fighting for a playoff spot. Julio Rodriguez, American League Rookie of the Year, cashed that as well pretty much too. And then the last leg was Shane McClanahan, American League Cy Young, at plus 750. You parlay all of those together, it's $1 to win $918. The only question is Shane McClanahan, and he can cash out now for $60, or he can let it ride for $918. I think we're on the same page of what we would do here, especially with the Verlander injury.
So if in a gambling sense, let it ride. You got $1 to win $918. It's plus 91,700.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
That's
$1? Roll with it. But in a baseball sense, I think it's more important to have a conversation about whether these guys could actually win it. Verlander should be the favorite, but this definitely takes a little bit off. And then when you have Shane McClanahan, who's probably number 2 at this moment, he's going to face, as we're recording right now, it's about Tuesday around 6 p.m. Eastern, right before the Marlins are about to play the Rays. And Shane McClanahan starts against the worst offense in baseball, historically bad offense against lefties. And you're nodding your head. You're like, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I think the tweet, you saw the tweet. It was the worst since 2 teams that no longer exist. So
Shane McClanahan is probably going to pitch pretty well today. Probably, knowing gambling, probably going to get bombed somehow, or the Marlins are going to win. But we're going to assume that he's going to pitch pretty well. He has a couple of starts down the stretch. If he can, but the thing is, he has to pitch really well.
Yeah.
Because Verlander is probably going to come back before the end of the season and probably give you 2 more starts. And with Verlander having an ERA below 2 and McClanahan having an ERA in the 2.3,
it's 2.2 flat right now.
2 flat. Whether you like it or not, the Cy Young voting is mostly based on ERAs, win totals. Whether you like it or not, that's just the reality of the situation. And when Verlander's got a 1.86, if I'm not mistaken, McClanahan has to be in the 2-ish range, like very low 2s, because McClanahan's going to finish with more strikeouts.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going for him. But he really has to dominate while Verlander only has to coast.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really close. I don't know where I'm leaning right now, especially with the Cy Young, with the injury implications for Verlander. But I say that McClanahan dominates and has a very good shot of winning, because I also do think that the Astros are not going to push Verlander. Why would you, right? They're in different spots. Rays are gunning for that wild card, and they don't have that much of a lead. Astros have it locked up. There's no need to rush Verlander. McClanahan, they need great starts. And that also could be a storyline, right? McClanahan throws one of the best Septembers that we've seen and overtakes Verlander to win the Cy Young, that makes a lot of sense
and
too.
pushes the race to the playoffs.
The more I'm thinking about it, the more I think McClanahan will win it.
And the strikeout numbers are ridiculous. And they're both equal in WHIP. So, I mean, this will be one of the most interesting showdowns ever, because I think it's literally impossible, unless Verlander implodes in the 2 outings he comes back, for McClanahan to catch him in the ERA department, but he can close the gap and then have the innings, edge on him, because Verlander's obviously going to miss at least a couple starts. That will give McClanahan a chance, who trails by 5 innings, I think right now, to overtake him by maybe 10, 15 innings. But unless he's up about 10 to 15, maybe 20 innings, it's going to be hard for McClanahan to do it. So he's going to have to really shove. Assuming he shoves against this Marlins team, then it's going to get really interesting down the stretch. And I think if Verlander's healthy, it's probably no contest, right? He probably coasts, like you said, especially with, I know people don't like to talk about records, but when you see 16-3, I find it hard to believe that writers are just going to like fully ignore that when McClanahan's 11-5. I know the Astros are way better, and I know that decisions don't matter at all, but 16-3, I'm telling you, there's going to be some writers out there that see that. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's what happens. We know it's what happens. I think it opens the door though. And that's really all that you need if you have a $1 to win 900 plus bet. So with Verlander hitting the IL, you let that one ride.
3 out of 4 are hitting, and you have a very good shot of hitting 4 to hit a plus 91,000.
Yeah.
91,000 Aram. That's crazy.
No brainer.
If we're talking about on the National League side, the Cy Young, a contender at least for the Cy Young, even though Sandy's probably going to win it. I don't see how he doesn't at this point. But Tony Gonsolin, forearm strain, he will be out. Kind of stinks. Tony Gonsolin at least was definitely in the running. He has a better ERA than Sandy does, but I mean, Sandy's just done everything else better, and Sandy goes 9 innings while Gonsolin's around 5-6 innings to start, and Sandy's been much better, but Gonsolin was in the running. And Ben was sending in Ben, our YouTube guy, shout out you, Ben, host of the Boys of Spring podcast, doing some stuff on the college baseball side as well. He sent in one of my takes. I got to apologize. I mean, that's not even a take I can defend. I said that Tony Gonsolin at the beginning of the season, I was like, he's probably a 3. Look at the Dodgers rotation, and at 3 at the high end. Oh my God, was I wrong? I mean, oh my gosh,
he's
such a bad take. He's been amazing. The stuff has ticked up. The command has been excellent. And,
he's been healthy.
And he's been healthy.
That's the worst part. That's the worst part.
People on Twitter called him a glorified opener. He's not been a glorified opener. Please relax. Tony Gonsolin has been awesome this year and deserves all the praise. Egg on my face. One of the worst takes of the season for me.
I appreciate that humility. And I mean, that's the thing though, is that's a big blow for the Dodgers, but kind of similar to the Astros situation. How big of a blow is it for them specifically, because they're the Dodgers? You mentioned it before. I think we recorded. They're going to get Kershaw back now. It stinks that one goes out, one comes in, but when Kershaw's been on the field, he still has been Clayton Kershaw. He's been very, very good. It's just about the health. So you lose one guy, you replace him now with Kershaw. I don't think the Dodgers are going to miss too much of a beat, assuming Kershaw continues to be the Hall of Fame lefty he is.
Dustin May's back.
And May, of course, too.
And then Tyler Anderson is still shoving. Andrew Heaney is still pitching well. Julio Urias is one of the front runners for the National League Cy Young. They brought up Michael Grove, who's he had a couple of spot starts here and there. He's fine. Can you tell me about Gavin Stone? Is there any shot that he's going to get any starts here?
Yeah, I wonder, man. I really do, because I would like to see Stone. I think the stuff is ready, but it seems like Bobby Miller might be the guy that they lean towards, because it's going to be a bullpen role. So Miller's looked a lot better as of late. If they need one of those two guys, they can come up, and I think they can compete, but it's more of just up to the Dodgers plan and what they want to do. And they're really weird with their prospects and their innings and all of those things.
It's funny. I was on Cardinals radio this morning. Shout out Nate Lucas. And they were asking me, are you worried about the Dodgers rotation now that Tony Gonsolin has, of course, went down? And I said, not even a little bit.
No,
not even slightly, because they have everything that they need. I mean, you go through the rotation and there's still not very many rests. I know people joke about Andrew Heaney, but he's been awesome. Tyler Anderson has been one of the biggest surprises in baseball. Julio Urias still shuts it down, and Dustin May looks like Verlander with movement.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. And then, they're going to get back Clayton Kershaw, and even losing Walker Buehler. I mean, Aram, my biggest bet at the beginning of the season, Dodgers over win total 97.5. I'd have to bleach my hair if it didn't hit. It's probably going to hit. They're on pace for 113 wins.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to hit like next week.
Without Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
And with Max Muncy hitting 192.
And Bellinger still stinks. And, they haven't gotten a lot from some of their guys. I mean, Kimbrel's been a disaster. And they've
the
still
worst reliever in their pen, and he's the closer.
Yeah, it's which is bizarre in its own right. He was really good against the Marlins for whatever that's worth in the game I watched yesterday, but I mean, again, not worth that much. But this team is crazy. And you mentioned, Miller. They also have Pepe out, who is a really interesting multi-inning guy if they want to bring him into nasty, and has continued to look better and better. Like, they've got so many different guys that they can bring up if push came to shove, that are succeeding in the upper minors, that I will never be worried about the Dodgers pitching situation. Really. I just don't think it's possible.
It's not possible. And they're going to get back Blake Trinan soon.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The turbo sinker.
I think with the frisbee slider.
When he's on, I think he's the best.
I just laugh. I like if I were to show somebody like how hard it is to hit a baseball, I think Blake Trinan's slider is probably one of the first things I'm going to pick. It just doesn't. I don't understand how anyone hits it. I've said that a bunch of times, but I just really don't understand how it's possible.
Diaz slider, Class A cutter, and Trinan slider. That's where it is. But also Trinan's sinker. I don't know how they hit that either. It just goes the other way, and it's 98.
It's a joke. And if he's healthy, it's going to be really hard to beat this Dodgers team. And we're going to talk schedule now, right? I mean, you want to go through the NL East. We'll go division by division, because it is interesting now when we look down the final stretch, especially with the Mets and the Braves, because we talk about the Dodgers and how good they are. Really important for one of these two teams to win the division, because then you avoid the Dodgers until the championship series. So similar to how you wanted to avoid the 1-game playoff in the wild card last year, and we saw the Giants and Dodgers pushing all the way to the final game. It's the same thing here in the NL East. Neither the Braves nor the Mets want to play the Dodgers early in the postseason, and those two teams have relatively easy schedules the rest of the way, but I would say that the Mets have the easiest of the two.
Oh, the Mets have such an easy schedule. They should win the division. When we look at the standings right now, the Mets are about 3 games above the Braves. And it's going to be hard, really, unless the Braves completely dominate, because the Mets have a cakewalk. I gave them a 2 out of 10 difficulty. And if you're curious about any of the American League teams, we did that yesterday, and this is the National League episode. The highlights, 3 against the Braves on the road. That's it. Talking about lowlights, how about 6 against the Nationals at home, 3 against the Pirates at home, and 3 against the Pirates on the road? So 6 total against the Pirates. You have 3 against the Marlins in Miami. You have the Cubs, which is 2 at home, and another 2 at home against the Marlins. And then you have 3 on the road against the Oakland A's. So just to recap, they have 3 against the Braves, Nationals, Pirates, Marlins, Cubs, A's.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really get
much easier. That's why it's a 2 out of 10, one of the easiest of all the contenders that we've gone over so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where the Braves absolutely have to take that series to stay alive. And then really, like you said, they have to play at a ridiculous pace, because looking at the Braves schedule the rest of the way, it's easy, but not that easy. We gave it a 5 out of 10 difficulty, with the highlights being 3 against the Mets, which is going to be tough, 3 against the Mariners, not going to be easy, and the Phillies for 7. The Braves have taken care of the Phillies for the most part, but 3 at home, 4 away. Phillies are really trying to fight for a playoff spot and stay, ahead in the wild card. They're playing really good baseball, and they get Bryce Harper back. That's not going to be easy. The lowlights, they get the Marlins for 6, 3 home, 3 away. They get the Nationals for 6, 3 home, 3 away. A's for 2 on the road, and Giants for 3 on the road. Definitely a very manageable schedule, but it's pretty hard to catch the Mets when they are probably going to win 70% of their games based on the schedule.
Yeah, like we even look at the lowlights, right? The Giants were put in the lowlights, but the Giants, if you get Rodon and you get Logan Webb, I mean, it's not like you're facing, I mean, no offense, the Marlins or the
Yeah.
Pirates or the Cubs, even, or the A's or the Nationals. Like the Mets, their lowlights are some of the worst teams in baseball, while the Braves face similar types, but then they have the Giants as well. And then they have the Phillies for 7, and the Mariners are tough too. And that's in Seattle. Like the Braves really have to turn it up against harder competition 3 games back to catch the Mets. I really do think that the Mets are just going to win this division.
And I want to emphasize the West Coast road trips are tough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a longer West Coast road trip for the Braves. So, I mean, that's going to be a challenge for them. But, you also have the Phillies who have somewhat of a similar schedule to the Braves, but, I would argue maybe even slightly more difficult.
You could say that too. The Phillies, I gave them a 5 out of 10 difficulty, but to Arm's point, you can probably give them a 6. They have the Braves again for 7 with 4 at home, 3 on the road. They get the Astros on the road in Houston. Then they have a 2-game series against the Blue Jays. That's the highlights. The lowlights, they have 6 against the Marlins. They have 7 against the Nationals. They have 4 against the Cubs, and they have 3 against the Giants. Against the Cubs and the Giants, it's all on the road. The Astros, you throw them in there, instead of maybe a team like the Mariners. And then you have the Blue Jays. So it's a couple of different teams. It's not impossible, but it's definitely not easy. And when we look at where the Phillies are, they're 10 games back, but in the wild card standings, and I can't wait to talk about some of these wild card teams in a minute after we do the schedules. The Phillies have a 1.5 game lead above the Padres for that second spot in the wild card. I really don't know if the Padres and the Brewers are going to get there, but I also don't want to get into the wild card conversation right yet. I think the Phillies will be a wild card team, but I don't think that, I mean, of course they're not catching the Mets, and I still don't think they're going to catch the Braves because it's not like they have a cakewalk and the Braves have something crazy. It's very similar.
You know what's funny? You know what makes the Phillies schedule more difficult than the Braves is the Braves can't play themselves, and the Braves are really tough. And so the Phillies having to play the Braves for 7 makes it extremely difficult. So that's otherwise it's basically exactly the same. But yeah, if you ask the Phillies, they probably want to play the Braves. You got to beat the best to be the best. And, it gives them a chance to kind of close in, even though the division's probably out of reach, or even catching the Braves is out of reach, but it gives them an opportunity to kind of see them up close. Going into National League Central, the Cardinals have it in the bag. Really, that division is theirs, but the schedule the rest of the way really makes it even easier for them. We gave it a 4 out of 10 difficulty there. Highlights: Brewers for 4, 2 home, 2 away, Padres for 3, Dodgers for 3. That'll be a tough stretch, but they also have the Cubs for 3 at home, the Nationals for 4 at home, 9 against the Pirates, 6 away, 3 at home, and 5 at home against the Reds. So, I mean, that part of the schedule, they should clean up, and that should get them a good chance to maybe be around 100 wins.
I agree. It's kind of crazy thinking at the beginning of the season, would the Cardinals be a 100-win team? I mean, they're 75 and 54. They're 6 games up. So they have to, I mean, they really have to go 25 and 8 to be a 100-win team. So maybe they won't get quite there. But I mean, if they win 20, they go 20 and 13, they're a 95-win team.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Cardinals have been so good all year, especially at home, and they have a cakewalk. I mean, 4 out of 10 difficulty when really, the Padres and Dodgers are tough, but the Cardinals are better than the Padres. So really the Dodgers is their toughest test because they're better than the Brewers and they're way better than every other team they named. Cardinals should definitely win this division.
What's interesting is the Brewers, they're on the outside looking in right now for the playoff, to get into the wild card, which we're going to talk about. But if there's any silver lining, it's that their schedule could be a bit favorable.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be favorable. We gave them a 3 out of 10 difficulty. So again, they're going to face the Cardinals with 2 at home, 2 on the road. They face the Yankees and the Mets, but they get to face them both at home. And then this is what they got. They got the Diamondbacks for 7, 3 at home, 4 on the road. They got the Rockies. They have the Giants. They have 7 against the Reds. And then they have 4 against the Marlins at home. 3 of those games against the Reds at home, 4 on the road. Most of their schedule is against some of the worst teams in baseball.
Yeah.
But then I guess you could say, the Yankees and the Mets, and just having those teams on there is difficult, but they get them all at home, which is much easier for them. So all of their toughest tests this year are going to be in Milwaukee, except for 2 games on the road against St. Louis. I just don't want to ruin the wild card conversation because I know we're going to talk about it a little bit. Should we just move on to the NL West before you have anything else?
We'll move on to the NL
Central?
West, but it's definitely a softer schedule on the National League side. And then the Dodgers, it doesn't really matter who they play at this point, but their schedule is kind of status quo the rest of the way. We gave it a 5 out of 10 difficulty, 3 against the Mets. They have 6 on the road against the Padres and 3 at home. So 9 total against San Diego, which, is more of just a problem for San Diego. 3 at home against the Cardinals. And then on the lighter side, 8 against Arizona, 3 on the road, 5 at home. They have 6 against the Rockies, all of which are at home, which is important because the Rockies obviously much better when they're playing at Coors, much worse on the road. And then the Giants, they have 6 games, even split home and road. So the Dodgers relatively, kind of just meager, regular status quo type of schedule the rest of the way for them.
It's harder than any of the Central teams, but nothing they can't handle. You look at their schedule and say, who's better than them? None. So it almost relative to the Dodgers. The whole schedule is easy for them. They win every game.
Doesn't matter.
The Dodgers, when we look at the standings right now, they're just incredible. They're just incredible.
89 wins already.
89 and 38. They have a plus 286 run differential. They're just the best team in baseball. Yeah. And whoever's on their schedule doesn't really matter, but it is a 5 out of 10 because it's not like they have, they don't have the Diamondbacks for 30 and the Reds for 50.
We know the Padres aren't going to roll over. They're trying to make the playoffs. They're going to give them their best punch.
And they have a 6 out of 10 difficulty. So the Padres are no lock to make the playoffs. They have the Dodgers for 9 games, like we were saying too. Dodgers having the Padres for 9 games is a lot different than the Padres having the Dodgers for 9 games. 6 of those will be at home, but they have the Cardinals. They have the Mariners for 2 games. They get 7 against the Diamondbacks, which will be great, but their teams that they're facing, I guess, on the low lights is the White Sox, which is not a cakewalk. The Giants, again, not a cakewalk. And then they have the Rockies in Coors Field. Again, not a cakewalk. The Padres are I'd almost give that to make this wild card, because if we look at it right now, and we should just get straight into the wild card conversation, because in the National League, let's talk about some of the teams that might scare us when we're talking about these contenders. The Braves are the current leader of the wild card at 79 and 50. You have the Phillies at 72 and 57. You have the Padres at 71 and 59. And then you have the Brewers really looking in. The Giants, they're just kind of out of it at this point. I want to throw that over to you, Aram. We just kind of went over the schedule. Who are some of these wild card teams that scare you?
And by scary, like we're saying, like which teams can be the most impactful, or which are we most afraid about fizzling, for context?
Let's do the most impactful wildcard teams and then the teams that scare us.
Yeah. Okay. So, the team, here's the thing. When you look at the schedules there, I would say maybe that Padres schedule is a 7 or an 8. And the more we think about it, that's a really tough schedule. So I think the Braves really, they're not a wild card team. The Braves are a division winner. I don't care what anybody says, and I don't think anyone's really disputing that. That team is absolutely on a different level than the other two. That is a really good team. But, I'm definitely starting to get worried about the Padres a little bit. We talk about the schedule now the rest of the way. I was banking on Tatis coming back. That obviously isn't happening. Josh Hader's been a disaster. Their bats are just, you compare them to the Phillies. Their bats just are not as exciting. It's just a bunch of 100 to 110 WRC plus guys that can go cold on you. And then all of a sudden you're relying on Machado to really, shoulder the load. Soto, obviously you add him to the lineup. That's great, but they haven't really been reaping the rewards of that so far.
Who's the ace? Because Joe Musgrove was in the Cy Young, right? He was one of the front runners for Cy Young, but he's teetered off. Yu Darvish continues to kind of give inconsistent outings. Sometimes he looks amazing. And you think to yourself, wow. Yu Darvish, when he's on, looks incredible. Blake Snell, the same thing. When he's on, he looks incredible. But more often than not, these guys aren't on all the time. Mike Clevenger has not been the addition that, they really hope for. And when you talk about the bullpen, Josh Hader is supposed to close out games, not blow them. Nick Martinez, since he went back there, has actually been awesome. Robert Suarez, guys like that have been awesome.
Yeah.
But you need that lockdown guy. And I don't know if Tim Hill can be the lockdown guy in the back end of their bullpen. There's a lot of holes in this Padres team. I remember when we were talking about it like a month or two ago I just believed in the Cardinals more because I was like, they're so well-rounded. But when the Padres are hot, they're incredible. I mean, they're one of the best teams in baseball when they're hot. It's just, it's almost like when the pitchers are pitching and the bullpen looks great and the offense is rolling, they look like one of the best teams in baseball. But when it's not, they look like the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. It's weird. And they stall out offensively. We've seen it. And then I think the question that you raised is the best one. Who's their ace? It's obviously Musgrove, like on paper, but right now, who do you feel best about taking the ball? Let me tell you how each guy's done in their last 5 starts. You got Yu Darvish with a 4.05 ERA, 33 Ks and 5 walks, though, is definitely really encouraging, but he's given up 6 homers. Opponent's hitting 234. Clevenger, last 6 starts, 3.94 ERA, fine, but not great. 20 strikeouts, 11 walks. Musgrove, last 5 starts, 4.28 ERA, 27 1/3 innings, 24 strikeouts, 2 walks. That's a great ratio, but opponent's hitting 3.01.
Yeah.
Blake Snell, and I won't even talk about Minaya in his 7.88 ERA. Blake Snell, 3.46 ERA, 26 innings over his last 5 starts. He's probably been the best with 38 punchies, 4 walks, but shorter outings, and opponents are still hitting 260. Like, do you feel great about any of those guys taking the ball in a must-win game right now?
Joe Musgrove, I guess, would be the guy, but I'm afraid. And Joe Musgrove has been one of the worst pitchers that you just named right there. I mean, the strikeout and the walk ratios are great, but they're still getting blown up. That's just the reality of the situation. And it's like, you can use strikeout and walk stuff to help predict future success, and maybe they'll just get better, as they start missing bats. And sometimes it stinks for that guy. Maybe it's just a bit being unlucky, but we have a month left. We have a month left, Aram. Yeah. We gotta be worried if they're giving up runs. They're giving up runs. I just saw Blake Snell get absolutely rocked by the Guardians. When we talk about how bad the Marlins have been against lefties, you know who's been really bad this year? The Cleveland Guardians. You know what they did, Blake Snell? Run him out of Petco where he's supposed to be better. It's not looking good. It's not looking good, and they have one of the tougher schedules. But then again, let's talk about the Brewers for a minute, because I mean, do we believe in the Brewers either?
Of course not.
That's the thing. Like,
but their schedule's soft.
Yeah.
And they like, every time you think they're dead, they just kind of come back up and show some signs of life. They surprisingly promote Garrett Mitchell, who has looked really good in 20 AAA games, and then has parlayed that into early success through the first 3 games at the big league level. He has the ability to hit for some power. He's fast. He plays good defense in center. That might inject some life into them. Yelich is starting to swing it again. Over the last month or so, he's been really solid. There's signs of life, but then again, a couple days ago or yesterday, Corbin Burns got roughed up by the Pirates. So it's just a weird spot right now. I would say the Brewers' schedule gives them a shot, because I think they're a pretty good team that if they, are playing right, they can rattle off a few wins. The Padres are obviously the much better team, but a softer schedule could be the difference here.
And I believe in the Brewers pitching over the Padres.
At this point, yeah.
I mean, Woodruff is back. Freddie looks good. Can we do kind of the I want to do some of that similar type thing, if you have the stats ready, with how those big time pitchers for the Brewers have been doing lately, because I can see the Padres woes. The Padres woes are more in our face, right? They're the bigger team, but like, what's going on with the Brewers pitching right now?
Yeah, actually, it's a great question, because the thing with the Brewers is we always want to say like, oh, the pitching's been great, the pitching's really good, and then it's been bad sometimes when you check in. But then other times I've checked in and I'm like, oh, they've been shoving lately. Yeah. Like it's just been one of those weird phenomenons. But I'll tell you what Corbin Burns has been doing over his last 6 starts: 4.81 ERA and 33 2/3 innings. He has given up 28 hits, 5 homers, and has walked 12.
Did you see that? Did you see that O'Neal Cruz home run off him? 117 miles an hour. Majestic. I mean, you think to yourself, man, if O'Neal Cruz could figure it out, it'd be holy shit. But I don't know if he's going to, but oh my dear Lord.
He's so fun when he connects.
Crazy.
Brandon Woodruff's been great. And that's really encouraging. So has Freddie Peralta. Woodruff, 2.7 ERA, 31 Ks, 8 walks, 1.1 whip. Peralta even better, 2.55 ERA in his last 5 starts. They've been kind of careful with him. Only 24 and 2/3 innings, but 20 Ks, 10 walks. But that's kind of always been the MO. That's what's going to happen with Peralta. 0.89 whip. No one's hitting him. Only 12 hits in those 24 and 2/3 innings. Aaron Ashby, though, has been getting roughed up in his last 3 outings, a 6.89 ERA and 15 and 2/3. And then they haven't really started anybody else significantly over the last 30 days. So, look, I trust Woodruff at this point. I think he's kind of worked through the early struggles, looks solid. Eric Lauer's been pretty consistent all year long, but it's really about Corbin Burns and what Corbin Burns are we going to get here? He's earned the benefit of the doubt, but how concerned are you about Burns? I think that's really what this all boils down to.
That's the thing. I just believe in Corbin Burns way more than any of these Padres guys. I mean, you could tell me what Corbin Burns' stats are, and honestly, I kind of throw them out the window, and maybe that's unfair when I look at maybe some of the Padres guys, but it's Corbin Burns at the end of the day. And Corbin Burns is just way better. There's maybe some highs and lows that he's going to go through. I don't know if there's just highs and lows that these Padres guys are going to go through. But at the same time, I surely believe more in the Padres offense.
Yeah.
It's almost like who's going to fall apart more, the Padres or the Brewers. And I still think the Padres are going to make it.
I think they find a way to.
Right. And they have to. They're too good.
Important. It's important to note 1.5 lead.
Yes.
So I call the 1.5 lead and the schedule difference a wash, right? So like I'll say Padres harder schedule, but they have a 1.5 lead. I kind of wash those out. Now they're even. I just feel like the Padres just have too much star power. And I mean, this Brewers offense could stall out any game, and they're not shoving the way they shoved last year, even though I do trust some of their arms a little bit more. And I know Hader's been a disaster, but regardless, no matter how you look at it, you subtract the best closer in the game from the Brewers. Even if he was still with them, you would be subtracting the best closer in the game because he's no longer that. And they traded him anyways, and that affects the Padres now negatively as well. So I look at it from that lens, and I think star power is kind of going to prevail here with Soto, with Machado, and I think they might even call up maybe somebody that could kind of fill in. Luis Campusano, I would love to see just get an opportunity, given that they're not getting anything from the catching position right now. Eggy Rosario is another guy that can hit lefties and kind of help balance things out, but they need somebody else to step up. Ha-Seong Kim has been really solid, but they need somebody else in this lineup to kind of step up for them. And I think it's going to happen. And I could see Soto really kind of kicking it in gear down the stretch here as a guy that's really wanted to play some meaningful baseball games since the World Series, because the Nationals have not given him the opportunity to play many.
It's funny. Do you want to put your faith in Juan Soto and Manny Machado or Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff? It's tough. I don't know.
It's really interesting.
It's really interesting. So just to recap the National League before we move on to the American League, the Braves and the Phillies, we're kind of putting them in. Even though the Phillies don't have that much of a lead, the Phillies, their schedule is not much harder than the Padres or the Brewers, especially the Padres. And the Phillies have just been a better team, and they've earned it. They've earned this kind of, we're putting them in. But it's the Phillies, and it's not like I'd be shocked if they blew it. I would be surprised, but I would not be shocked. Yeah. Padres and Brewers, you're on notice.
Absolutely. And to kind of just wrap up on the Phillies and why, I think I feel so good about them. Of course, you talk about adding an MVP. That's always going to be good news, right? And what was crazy is the second Harper hit the IL, it seemed like everyone kicked it in gear, right? Mm-hmm. You had Castellanos starting to hit the ball. You had Real Muto catch on fire. You had Bryson Stott get going. You had Bohm get going. And now Harper rejoins this team that when he left it looked like they were lost offensively. He comes back and now they're fantastic. And then pitching wise, Ranger Suarez over his last 5 starts, a 2.83 ERA, 26 punchies and 28 and 2/3 innings. Noah's been spectacular. Wheeler's struggled a little bit, but I don't really have much concern around
the Corbin Burns boat. Like I'm not that worried.
Not worried. No. And how about Kyle Gibson? What do you think about Kyle Gibson, Peter? 2.30 ERA, 5 starts, 30 punch outs in 31 innings, only 7 walks and 28 hits allowed.
I don't know what to think.
I don't know what to think either.
Know what to think. I mean, I've watched him. He looks pretty good. He does. And, he hasn't faced the best competition in the world, but it's not like he's been cakewalking over nobodies either. He's been good. He has been. And Syndergaard hasn't been terrible. They've been good. I will say it. Kyle Gibson has been good. And he's earned it.
And that makes me feel a lot better about them because now Syndergaard's like your 5. And the last thing I'll mention is Brad Hand has looked good out of the pen. Jose Alvarado, how about him? Last 10 outings, 1 earned run, 13 Ks, 2 walks. That's the big key.
Blowing cheese.
Yes, that's the big key. Lefty throws 101. He just never knew where it was going. So far, he's been commanding it. They lost Corey Knebel, but now they add Robertson, who's been great. Alvarado looks really good. And now Brad Hand is starting to look pretty solid as well. I think the Phillies are just more complete now than we thought they would be. They made some additions, as we've talked about in previous episodes. I think they're safe.
I think they're safe too. You want to talk American League?
Yes, because this is where I think it's as even as it gets between these 3 or really 4 teams.
It's about as even as it gets. So right now in the wild card standing, as we're recording, the Rays have a 1-game lead over the Mariners, and the Mariners have a half-game lead over the Blue Jays. Those are your 3 wild card teams. But right behind them are the Orioles and the Twins. And I'm not writing off the White Sox, but I kind of am writing off the White Sox in a way. Let's just do a recap quickly of those team schedules. The Rays, I gave a 9 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. I mean, they have a really tough schedule moving forward. Blue Jays, 6 out of 10. Orioles, 5 out of 10. When we look at the Twins, 3 out of 10 difficulty, and the Mariners, another 3 out of 10 difficulty. We were talking about it yesterday. Orioles got a shot.
Yeah.
The freaking Baltimore Orioles have a shot. Their pitching has looked good lately. I mean, their offense, of course, Adley just gets better by the day. Mullins looks great. Mountcastle's hitting home runs. Santander looks great in the 3-hole. The bullpen with Felix Bautista and Perez. I mean, they're just Dylan Tate. They're nasty. They're a good team. And the Blue Jays, you're on notice. The Rays have a really, really tough schedule ahead, but the Rays are only getting back reinforcements. And the Rays, it doesn't really matter who they face. Like, they could lose 3-2 to the Marlins tonight, but then go beat up the Yankees in the series after. It's almost like the Rays have a 9 out of 10 schedule, and I almost discount it, even though I shouldn't. Like, I want to count the Rays in, and I really do want to count the Mariners in, because the Mariners have a very easy schedule, and they've proven, kind of like the Phillies have, that they just belong and that they've earned it. While Logan Gilbert has not looked good lately, Robbie Ray has looked better, and Luis Castillo is an ace. I mean, he just is an ace. Like, he's nasty. Get him out of Great American, and he's looked disgusting. And then they have one of the best bullpens in baseball. Now that Ty France was really slow out of the gate, not out of the gate, excuse me, just slow lately out of the gate. He was awesome.
Yeah, but he's showing signs of life again, I think. Exactly.
And then J-Rod as well is showing signs of life too, even though he was a little bit slow there, but he's
coming off injury. The hand, it really impacts a lot of hitters, and he's obviously a very handsy, explosive hitter.
Sam Haggerty is better than your favorite player.
So you know what's funny? Guess who's making a rehab appearance for the Orioles right now?
Making a rehab appearance for the Orioles?
He's not a big leaguer yet.
Who?
Grayson Rodriguez is scheduled to make a rehab appearance. I have no idea how they're going to manage him. I don't know if they might say, hey, we don't want to risk it. Or they might say, hey, you're fully ready to go. Like, you're healthy again. Why don't you throw your last 4 starts of the year with us at the big league level? I don't know what they're going to do. But if they call up Grayson Rodriguez, holy crap, I'm all in on the potential here, because a healthy Grayson Rodriguez, I think, instantly becomes their best starter. And I don't think there's going to be much of a learning curve for this guy. If he's healthy and he makes a couple starts and looks good in the minor leagues, they might give him a shot. I don't know if that's fully been ruled out yet. You look at the Rays and the reinforcements they're getting. Wander Franco got shut down on his rehab assignment, but still should have a chance to return this year.
Non-zero chance.
Yeah, non-zero chance that he returns this year. I think even better than that.
Shit ever.
And that's a big boost for them. And then you've talked about it, like Nick Anderson, all the other pieces they're getting. Josh Lowe is raking in AAA, and they sent him down in the end of July on a 7-game hitting streak at the big league level. I think Lowe's ready to contribute at the big league level right now, which I don't know why the Rays did that. Who is your is there one team that is like safe out of the 3 wildcard teams? Because before you answer the question, Rays up 1 game on the Blue Jays, but the Mariners at number 2 are a half game behind the Rays. And of course, the Blue Jays half game behind the Mariners. And then looking outside from, the top 3 is the Orioles 2 games back and the Twins 3 games back, like you mentioned. Is there any team that you feel like pretty comfortable about that you're like, they don't have too much to worry about, even though the standings are so tight?
I do feel pretty comfortable about the Mariners. The Mariners have one of the easiest schedules moving forward. We gave them a 3 out of 10 difficulty. Their tough games are the Guardians, Braves, and Padres, but they have like 4 against the Angels, 5 against the A's. They play the Royals, they play the Tigers a bunch, and then they play the White Sox. The Mariners, I feel, are pretty safe here. The Rays, Blue Jays, and Orioles are going to be fighting it out like nobody's business. And Aram, 10 games between the Blue Jays and the Orioles.
Wow.
7 of them in Toronto. Oh, that's going to be sick. That's going to decide it, in my opinion, because I do think that the Rays are going to figure it out and they're going to make it. And then it's Orioles, Blue Jays going to war.
So you most concerned about the Blue Jays?
I am most concerned about the Blue Jays because how many starts are we going to see where Barrios blows it? What's been funny? Stripling has just been way better than everybody else. But I mean, how long does that last? Is that even real? Mitch White, is that real?
Yeah, no, like that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. And what's interesting too, I look at this Orioles team and you look at the Blue Jays team and you talk about a lot of head-to-head games down the stretch. The Orioles have nothing to lose. You think Adley Rutschman is, of course he wants to make the playoffs, but the Orioles, they're playing with house money. The Blue Jays, they've gone all in. And they've got some guys that, like George Springer's not getting any younger. Matt Chapman's not getting any younger. Like they've got some dudes. They went all in. They're trying to win now. They have a lot to lose. And the front office has depleted this farm system. They've got pressure. There's something scary about the Orioles playing the Blue Jays for 7 games when the O's have legit nothing to lose.
I just want to look this up quickly, because this is something I remember and I don't want to misquote it. But in my gambling, there's a lot of starts where Manoah faces off against the Orioles. And he doesn't pitch that well, but I want to make sure that's correct. Okay, he's faced them 3 times this year, 16 innings, 7 earned runs to give him a 3.78 ERA.
His standard's not good.
Not very good. Gosman against the Orioles this year. He's faced them once, 5 earned runs in 2 innings.
Wow. That's pretty interesting.
Let's go to Jose Barrios. How has he performed against the Orioles this year? 3.86. He's only faced them once, 7 innings, 3 earned, but 2 of those were home runs.
It's one of his best starts of the year, probably.
One of his best starts of the year. Let's see how Stripling has done against the Orioles. Pitched very well against them. Of course he did. It's Ross Stripling. Like, how did that happen?
So weird.
But, none of them have dominated besides Ross Stripling, I guess.
Yeah.
But.
And the O's have the better bullpen. Obviously, the Jays have supposed to be the better offense, but, it's been inconsistent this year in a lot of ways. I think that's going to be a close showdown. Obviously, it's the Blue Jays spot to lose, both in the standings and both just realistically. But I think it's going to be interesting. The Jays are definitely my biggest concern because it's not just the O's that could catch them. I do think that the Twins still have a fighting chance here. They've won 4 in a row to kind of snap what was a really rough skid for them. And to kind of wrap up this discussion, how much of a shot do you think the Twins have? I actually think they can do this because they're coming to life here. A lot of guys are starting to come together. I think they hit a little bit of a lull, but now we're seeing them show signs of life. You mentioned the schedule was kind of soft the rest of the way for them.
Before we move on to the Twins, because I misquoted. Orioles, 7 of those are in Camden Yards.
Oh, wow. All 7 are at home?
No, 7 of the 10 are at home for
10
Orioles.
games, 7 at home. Wow. Okay, that's going to be fun. Camden Yards is going to be rocking. I hope it's rocking.
Rocking. Twins have one of the easiest schedules left, but 8 of them are against the Guardians. That's where it is. And then they have 4 at the Yankees. I mean, they could get crushed there. And while they have a very easy schedule because they got 6 against the Royals, they play the Angels, and they play the Tigers, like 9 are against the White Sox. So 21 games are against Guardians, White Sox, and Yankees. And the Yankees are kind of their dad. The Guardians are kind of their dad. And the White Sox, how much better are the Twins than the White Sox, really?
Yeah. They're just a little bit more.
The Orioles and the Blue Jays are better teams, but they could just, if they split and then the Twins go on this crazy run, We
That's
can
what
see
I'm
the
thinking.
Twins. I'm definitely not counting them out.
That's something, and they beat each other up. Here's another scenario, though. And this is the last scenario I'll throw at you before we end the episode is the Twins are 1.5 games behind the Guardians with a lot of head-to-head games. Let's say the Twins catch the Guardians. Now the Guardians are the wild card team. How do they stack up in your eyes against the rest of these ball clubs? That's a whole nother wrinkle in this that we didn't even realize.
The Guardians have a very easy schedule. So the Guardians play the Twins, but they, for those 8 games, but they play the Rays and the Mariners. That's their tough one. But they have the Royals for 9 games. Angels at home, White Sox, and Rangers. Only one series against. So they get 9 games against the Royals, while the Twins get 9 games against the White Sox. A little bit different there. I mean, the Guardians could just straight up roll through the Royals and it not really matter. So even if let's say, for example, Twins get 5 out of those 8 games, Guardians could just go down and beat the hell out of the Royals. And let's say the Twins split with the White Sox, they just can't catch them. Yeah. So that is a scenario.
It is. If they take it head to head. Here's the problem with the Guardians. And I mean, the problem for other teams, the benefit for the Guardians. I don't see how they ever really hit a lull when you've got McKenzie, Bieber, and then even Quantrill throwing the way he's throwing as of late. Savali's been throwing well. Karinchak is disgusting. Class A, he speaks for himself. Like, this bullpen plus rotation is too good for them to really massively falter. So it's going to be a Twins hot streak that would allow them to maybe take the division. That's why I think the Guardians could be a dark horse to steal a wild card spot if the Twins went nuclear. Like, if the Twins went crazy, the Guardians could be a dark horse, but it really is all on the Twins because I think the Guardians aren't really going to fall apart in any way. It's really going to be the Twins just playing so well that they overtake the Guardians. And now the Guardians all of a sudden are fighting for a wild card spot. The American League has 5 or 6 teams that could really make a push.
And one more thing about the Guardians too, Jose Ramirez has not been that great lately, and I think we expect him to get a little bit better. If we're looking at OPS, like he had a 1,100 OPS in April, 972 in May, 860 in June, 806 in July, and now we're rounding out August, and he has a 784 OPS. I'm gonna make the prediction he gets better in September.
I'd expect.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe prediction. He's a guy that at this point, when he slumps, that's a slump. A 784 OPS is a slump, and it doesn't last very long. So I'm not too worried about him. And I think the Guardians are going to get going. I think they're going to be too tough to catch. But the Twins do have a good shot to make it interesting. So in summary, we're both most concerned about the Jays, and we're both most confident about the Rays.
And the Mariners.
Mariners.
I'm pretty confident.
I'm probably more confident about the Mariners.
They have such an easy schedule moving forward too. And they don't really have to play much. Like, they don't really have this 10 games against contenders or anything like that. They have a pretty easy way in.
And the Rays have a tough schedule. Yeah, so I would say Mariners safest of the wild card teams in the AL. Rays right behind. Tough schedule makes it a little bit more interesting, but reinforcements kind of hedge that. And then the Jays, that's the spot that I think is going to turn out to be up for grabs.
I cannot wait. But in the meantime, get yourself some Just Baseball merch, people. It's getting into the fall months. And you know what we got for you? Long sleeves. We got all your bitching about it's summer, can't have long sleeves. Guess what? Starting to get a little colder. We're going to get those long sleeves on and put on a hat. What about a Just Baseball hat? The rope hats, the dad hats, they're all in our episode description. Make sure you get those. But something that's coming on Just Baseball that I can't wait for is the top 100. That's going to be coming from our guy, Aram Layton, soon. And of course, we have all of our different podcasts, Not Gambling Advice, which will be transitioning into football. I mean, of course, we're going to finish baseball for the rest of the season, but we will be doing some football content. So if you need your football fix, check out that one. If you need a prospect fix, go check out the call up. And for all the fixes, justbaseball.com.
Hell yeah. Really excited. We pumped out a lot of good content, a lot of September call ups, obviously, coming through. So very excited to break all that down, kind of tell you everything you need to know about those guys, whether it's a fantasy perspective or card collecting or whatever it may be, or just for the team that you root for. What kind of impact can some of these prospects make? We'll be covering it on the call up and at justbaseball.com, just detailing all of these September promotions.
Can't wait, dude. And with that, thank you, everybody.